And we are live because that's usually how it goes. It's a little bit messy, sorry guys. Paolo will join us in a second. He had a slight issue with the software. And I have with me John. Hi, John.
Hi.
And
Hello from me.
and we're going to talk a little bit about, well, ism is a miss. It's a great sentence. I always loved it. It came from John Lennon in one of his songs, and obviously I can't be asked to remember which the one was. But ism is a miss. And why is ism a miss? Well, in America, they have all sorts of identity politics going through one another. And, well, obviously, if you do not agree with it, you're bad. Makes sense to some people, I guess. And now I'm clipping. Now my sound is really loud. Thank you for letting me know, mate.
Remember, Michael Keller is the sound complaints guy.
Be that as it may, he is. I do. How do you call it? Listen to his input. I hope it's better now.
Most tolerant.
No, actually, I find that very often he is quite correct.
Is it? Do something.
So, but yeah, and my sound should be better. Your sound should be good as well.
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you fine, mate. And Paolo is back. Welcome back, Paolo.
No, the reason I ask is because it's now showing no activity at all on my microphone.
No, yeah, it's working fine. Yeah.
Jesus, what this? I'm trying to find out how to adjust the volume on the microphone.
Yeah, you're okay, mate. So I wouldn't bother if I were you.
If you found something you're good at, stay with it. What's that? What am I good at, Michael?
I don't know. Okay, I'm still clipping. That's.
You don't hear me, Michael?
Paolo said something, didn't hear him.
Now this is weird. I do hear some strange sound on my side. It's a setting in mine. I have no idea, but I do hear something on my side. Or rather, I can see the microphone is doing something, but I have nothing else running, so I have no idea what. That's the beauty of... we were just complaining how great Microsoft keeps its shit together.
Good. Yeah. Sorry, Michael, I misunderstood. I thought you were saying I'm good at something. And I thought, no, I deny it. Yes.
But yeah, there seems to be...
Thank you for clarifying, Michael.
There seems to be a few strange sounds on my end, but I'm going to ignore that for now. I'm sorry, I can't make it go away. I hope I'm not...
He heard a non-existent mosquito earlier.
Well, that's true, I did. Anyway,
mosquitoes are crazy thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's put it like this. He asked if I had a mosquito. I'm in the north of Scotland. Mosquitoes do not exist in the north of Scotland.
Well,
they sometimes, when the earth is particularly warm, get to the south of England. Even then, they're a rarity. But in the north, in the Scotland, midges. You get midges. You do not get mosquitoes.
A couple of weeks ago, my skin was like a buffet. I had mosquito bites everywhere.
Ooh.
They always loved me. I must taste great.
Yeah. Alcohol, mate.
I don't know if that makes me better or worse.
No, they're supposed to be put off by alcohol in your sweat.
No. Not really.
Okay, it was just a thought.
Be that as it may, today we're going to talk about, well, basically identity politics, and this based on something that Paolo sent to us on the Discord server thingy. And this is the problem with identity politics in itself. Now, currently in the Western world, there is one group that is always wrong, and there's one group that is always right. And obviously, white people are always wrong, especially white men, and black people, especially black women, are never wrong. But here you can see...
women in general, though, let's be honest.
No, white women can still be wrong.
No, but when did you find a woman who admitted to ever being wrong?
No, we're not talking about what they admit. We're talking about how they portray things to be.
No, yeah, well, you see, you do these blanket statements.
Yeah, that's the whole idea of the topic. I'm not saying it's actually true, it's what they say is true.
Yeah, you say, are they, and who is they?
Well, the ones pushing for identity politics.
Ah.
Had lots of nothing on the stream, then Modwin started talking again. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, is it your OBS or something that's messed up?
Yeah, probably. But I don't understand it, because when you guys were talking, everything was working fine. Is everything working fine now? Except for the fact that I do hear a little ticking sound.
Michael, can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear all of you. But apparently the stream couldn't.
No, we can hear each other because we're in the Hangout.
Yeah, we're in the Hangout.
What's coming through to the stream?
Yeah. It's always good fun like that. Anyway, back to the topic at hand, because I'm just going to soldier on bravely. So the thing with that...
But Michael's not hearing anything. And were anyone else to actually turn up?
Yeah, but
he seems to be alone at the moment.
He is alone, yes. Are you able to hear them now, Michael?
It's all rather difficult because of the lag.
Yeah, that is true too. And I have no idea.
Michael says only you, Modwayne.
You don't hear the other ones? That's amazing. Don't blow in the microphone. No,
so nobody. I have to speak into the microphone or something. I need to be holding it up.
Well, I think because we're hearing each other. It's something between the Hangout and what goes out to YouTube. That's the problem.
Yeah, but I don't understand how that can be. Is it working fine now, Michael? I keep twiddling a bit with the OBS settings.
Well, damn it.
That's not helpful.
Yeah, I mean...
it's not meaningful anyway.
Is it wow, it's really loud now? Or wow, there's still no sound? Or...
Oh, Paolo's here and John's here too, but we lost that.
So if I hold the microphone, I'm gonna switch back to this form, but I'm not gonna be as loud.
Okay, let's see how it is.
Turn up. I need to turn off my fan.
I think it's Modwayne's problem.
You know, it's probably a problem on my end. I'm sure of it, but I haven't got a foggiest what's going on. How is it now, by the way? Because I twiddled around with the settings again. I'm really getting, you know, I've got the settings on OBS now in a way that I've never had them set up before, and it might actually work. I have no idea.
Welcome to modern software.
Yeah, it's working now. It's never been on these settings. Ever. It's in...
No echo, volume good.
Bloody fucking
Just
hell.
none of us can remember what the heck we were talking about.
Ah, that's all right. I can bring it back. I know I can. But I just need to stress out that the way OBS is set up now is it's 100% different, or 180% different, as it has been in the last
forward and
months.
entertain me now.
Yes, thank you very much,
Well, we
Michael.
might have a small audience, but it's very demanding.
It's a demanding orb, and we're going to rise to the occasion.
You speak for yourself, mate. I'm sitting here on the sofa.
Hi there, Stan Ulch. I'm sorry to hear that about Canada. Canada seems to be having internet problems.
Oh, Jesus. Fucking wet. Pardon me.
Did Canada already go into socialist mode?
Well,
yeah, they've had Trudeau for yonks.
We're on 10 minutes of streaming, and the only thing we've done is handle technical problems.
Which is quite annoying, because there were no technical problems, but then all of a sudden there were. Thank you, OBS. Anyway, so...
I say, welcome to modern software.
Yeah, true that. Anyway, we're going to try to bring it back to the topic that I was hoping to talk about. Here we go. So, identity politics is a problem. Now, white men obviously bad, black women obviously good, as long as you push the narrative. Because what happens...
Yeah, fuck the narrative.
Yeah, what happens as soon as you might, for whatever reason, disagree with the story at hand, well, if you disagree, you're bad. And this is what we see in America. Okay, why is this not working? I so dislike OBS. OBS is acting really weird today. Anyway, so this is a link that Paolo posted on our Discord server, and I really thought about, yeah, no, you know what? I'm going to use this story as, how do you call it, a head coat?
I can't see it in the stream yet.
No, that's because it's not in the stream yet.
Well, then when you say this story, I think it'd be best to put it on the stream first.
Fair enough. It's on the stream now. This story. Students demanding the firing of a black dean because she mixed up black student names.
And it could only possibly be because of racism.
And it's only because of racism, and that she's a black woman doesn't make it any better, because she doesn't feel that she is a racist. And
but what I'm saying is they're trying to make a statement that no other people of any other... I mean, no one has ever stereotyped East Asians as all looking the same, ever. It only happens to black people.
Yeah.
It's like getting serious.
But now it happens because the person that's doing it is a black woman.
Yeah, but I say that they don't care. It's their feels. They were misidentified with each other, and that must be because of racism. Because they're black, everything that happens to them is because of racism. And just because another person is black doesn't mean they can't have whiteness.
Oh yeah, that too.
Because as we know, whiteness is a condition, not skin color.
Yeah. No, but we talked a little bit about it on the last stream, because obviously, you know, believing in the nuclear family is whiteness, and being on time is whiteness, and having a work ethic is whiteness.
Anything that might make you successful is whiteness, apparently.
Yeah, which is weird because there have been several.
Anti-racist.
Yeah, which is weird because there are a lot of cultures actually thrive on those very things that are now predominantly white.
Apparently.
I mean, making appointments with your mate and actually keeping time means that you're colonized. It's whiteness. Because no well-intending person of color would ever be on time, apparently. That's not me saying. I mean, that's...
Or the vast majority of the Earth's population who live in Asia.
Mm. Well, considering that there's only about 500 million white people in the world, the vast majority of the world apparently.
No, I'm just saying, you said black, but I said, and the vast majority of people in the world who are Asian, because the majority of people in the world, by a lot, are Asians.
Yeah. Biggest group out there. True that. But they're obviously also white, because even in China, which is communist.
No, they're not white. They have whiteness.
Yeah, whiteness.
This is a mistake. It's not that they're white. They have whiteness.
I stand corrected. You are correct, sir.
And just because the Chinese, thousands of years ago, when much of Europe wasn't very developed, they invented things like printing and gunpowder and all those things. Just because they did that doesn't mean that they couldn't develop until the white people colonized.
Yeah. Because obviously the world didn't turn till white people told it to.
Yeah. All those other. You see, this is the thing. We have the They Was Kangs movement, which claimed that black Africans invented everything first. And then we have whiteness, which is no one did anything until the white people. Now, call me stupid, but I think the two contradict each other.
Oh yeah, they're mutually exclusive. It's impossible to have them both.
That's because you need to decolonize your mind.
True that.
Yeah.
What?
Or have a lot more beer.
I doubt that there's enough beer in the world to make sense of that one, to be honest.
Or maybe LSD.
No, I don't do drugs, just beer.
But yeah, no, it's amazing.
Of course, the problem here, when you kind of pay attention to this article, the students are obviously idiots, and there's an explanation for it. But when you look at the list of grievances by these students, they're not looking for a dean; they're looking for a mommy.
Yeah. I mean,
especially because these are black people in California.
But here's the thing, right? The first two words: students demand.
Yeah.
Yes.
In my mind, that is instant dismissal. I don't need to read anything else. The minute it says students demand.
Yeah, no, I agree. You go to school to learn. You go to school to get educated about this.
Used to be. You went to a school, you didn't like it, you went to a different school.
Well, my brother had a very different approach to that one, to be honest.
Yeah, but now, if you don't like it, you change the school to be how you want it. Huh?
Yeah, no, it's true that.
It's about building a home here.
It's about building a home, for fuck's sake. Yeah, I saw that clip. On Yale, of all places. Well, my brother isn't highly educated, but he's a brilliant man, in my humble opinion. He always said the following thing. That teacher standing in front of the class, he may be the biggest dick in the world. He may be as obnoxious as anything.
He may be the biggest cunt in the world.
Most likely, to be honest, you're agreed. But the thing is, like him or not, like her or not, the teacher knows what she's talking about. It's her job. Yeah. Now, you may disagree. By all means, go ahead and disagree. But you have to listen. And if you don't like what they have to say, accept what they say and try to change the world. But don't try to change the class, because the class isn't the world. So if the teacher teaches you something and you don't like it, you go into the world and you work on it. But the one place you do not work on it is school.
No, but here's the thing, right? Okay, so because the Americans misuse the language, to us, school is what you do during compulsory education, and university is what you do afterwards. But the Americans, they like to mix everything up. So anyway, when you're at school, you listen to what you're taught.
Yeah.
As you get to the end of your schooling, prior to university, you start to expand your reading and develop your own perspective in line with a cross-section of authors and so forth, right? When you go to college, If you don't like what the professor tells you, you argue against them.
Well, yeah.
You tell them why they're wrong.
Or why you think they're wrong.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you think they're wrong, you tell them why it is they're wrong, right? And that's the higher education approach.
Mm-hmm. And then they'll tell you why. Then they tell you why you're wrong, and then you have an argument,
but these
discussion.
Days, it's just school, as in being spoon-fed and not having a wit of your own view of things, just extended for another few years.
Yeah. And it's rather interesting because as this article says, I mean, the what was it? Teacher, professor, I think it was. Something Johnson. Consistently.
So she's the dean.
She's the dean.
Dean even. Oh, well, fuck. That's even worse.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia article on this college. It's supposed to have 1,100 enrolled students. Do you actually expect the dean to memorize the name of each and every one?
Well, it gets better.
It wasn't that she didn't remember. It's that she was unapologetic, having made a mistake.
Yeah, but I mean,
because she thought, I'm the boss of this place, and you're just a student.
Yeah, but this is the mistake she made. She named someone by the wrong name. Now, I've been working in healthcare for a very long time, and I had lots of, well, we call them clients, patients, whatever you want to call them. And sometimes when you meet someone and you get the wrong name stuck in your head, and the first few times that we talk, you keep calling them by the wrong name, even though you sometimes realize that you're doing this. You're not doing it because you want to be offensive. You're doing it because you're wrong, and because you're human, you can't be wrong. And apparently that's what this is about. She misidentified a person. She named the person with the wrong name because she got the wrong name stuck in her head. As we're all human, that happens sometimes.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, some of us have more trouble with names than others.
Yeah, I'm crap with names. I have to admit that.
Yeah, you know, and it's like, but as I say, it's not that. What upsets me, or not upsets the wrong word, what irritates me about these cases is just because it happened to a black person, it must be racism, and it's always worse for black people.
Yeah.
Just as if it happens to a woman, it's because she's a woman, and it's much worse for women. Well, no attempts at actual individualizing it. Yes. The dean may be an asshole.
Yeah.
The dean may not care about a student, whatever. That's not her job.
Nope.
Her job is to run a successful college.
It's kind of funny though, because this is how identity politics will eat its own. This is why people keep telling you the left eat their own, because they do. They always do.
You know, well, it's because they have starvation in leftist countries.
It's true that. The one thing that every socialist country has in common, the fact that there was no food.
Well, I mean, the Chaz managed it in 2 days.
Yeah, true that. That's brilliant. I wouldn't call Chaz an autonomous. I mean, they call themselves autonomous zone,
but it's great for the humour.
Yeah, true that. No, but I mean, every country that went the way of socialism and stuck to it ended up with at least one famine. Some even had more. Which really is amazing. I mean, if we look at Venezuela, how long has it been going on there now?
Yeah, well.
But it was the poster child of why socialism was such a good thing. Hell, even during the last election cycle in the UK, what's his face? Corbyn.
Well, Jeremy Corbyn's that kind of person, but yeah. No, well,
he was totally in favour.
Right? To be fair, okay, I'm gonna give this bone to the leftists, right? Oh. They say socialism is the best system, and it is. It's the best system for turning a wealthy country into a poor one.
True that. Fair enough, fair enough. That's maybe what we got wrong then. That's what we must have been misunderstanding. It's not about making the world better. It's about...
You only get equality by making everyone dirt poor.
Yeah.
That's what we used to have, and stupid industrialization and the capitalist system ruined it for everyone.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, actually. I mean, you can't have socialism without slavery. And you can't have socialism without poverty. But those two things are not necessary within capitalism. I mean, there are plenty of capitalistic systems without slavery.
Well, ironically, it's capitalist countries that have been the ones to finally get rid of slavery. Probably because slavery is actually worse. There was an example. Tom Goldrich of the Men Are Good channel did a short piece on the first railway line built in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about this railway line is this. It was during slavery, and they had a chance of using slaves, and the company refused. The reason they refused is if they'd killed any slaves, they would have had to have compensated the slave owners.
Yeah. But if one of the workers died...
The men who died being wage labourers didn't have to be compensated. So to capitalism, it's actually cheaper to use paid labour than slave labour.
Oh no, but there are several reasons why paid labour is better for capitalism than slave labour.
Did I say Goldrich? My apologies, Michael, you were point.
But there are several reasons. Hey, mate.
How's it going?
Yeah, doing all right. I wasn't sure if you would show up today, my dear Ludicrous.
I thought I heard dulcet Irish tones.
Somewhere.
Well, you're more than welcome, obviously, don't get me wrong. But I hadn't seen you, and I thought, oh, wait a second, no, there's something big going to happen soonish. Can't remember when it's going to happen, but... So I thought...
That was a few days ago, so it's okay.
Yeah, but I thought maybe that's why, you know, I haven't seen you, I haven't...
Are you now a dishonest man?
Oh, yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. No, but, yeah. Oh, by the way, I am going to... Oh, looks good on you, mate. Now, the rest of you can't see it, but he's wearing...
His leprechaun gold.
He's wearing a slave band on his finger.
Yeah, that's true. So there's something in Dutch appearing on the Hangout screen.
Oh, I haven't...
Welcome to the website.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Website.
I am sorry. There it goes. It's gone. My bad. It's a website for something else. It's not really that important. But yeah, I'm sorry. I was switching through browsers. My bad. I've got too much stuff open. I always do.
You always do, mate. I do try and tell you, you know. I actually use different browsers. So I'll have, say, 3 different browsers open, and then I'll sort of like subdivide what I use them for.
Yeah. I should probably do the same thing, but I'm lazy. But it's a good idea, I have to admit. So, I wanted to say something. We were talking about, can't remember now. Oh yeah, slavery. Why slavery and capitalism don't go hand in hand. This is the most important thing. No society based on slavery was ever able to stay successful. Because slavery counters innovation.
Yeah. And it, I mean, it's what did for the Roman Empire, because the Romans used to reward their soldiers with land. You serve for whatever it was, 25 years, and you get your parcel of land.
Yeah.
Well, then the landowners use slavery and undercut the, it sounds familiar. Big bodies use mass production to undercut independent smaller operators,
Yep.
leading to ruin. Does that sound familiar?
Oh yeah. Well, that's one of the downsides that happen within capitalism too, especially once.
Yeah, that's my point. It's exactly what's happening with the corporations right now.
But that's because we don't really have capitalism right now.
No, it isn't because we don't have capitalism. It's because in a free market where there are elements where what they call it, efficiencies of scale dominate, then you'll get a consolidation and growth of entities to the point that there is no competition. It's just the dynamics of the market. And, there's a lot, perhaps most things that doesn't apply to, but there are some things, I don't know, like social networks, where it is true. And so, I mean, even something like car manufacture, right? You think back to how many companies used to make cars.
Yeah. And
then you think about it now, and even when you've got what you think might be an independent company, it turns out to be just another subsidiary of a small number of very big groups.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually amazing. And it's the same if we look at the media. Media is owned by just a few big names.
And they create the illusion of competition.
Yeah.
And then you have to say, why do they go to such pains to make the illusion of competition?
Because the customers like the idea of choice, even if the choice is between two versions of the same product.
And psychologically, it stops people going, there's only 3 companies. Maybe they're price fixing it.
Yeah, it's amazing, really. But yeah, I mean, we're all doing okay with it because we think it's the best thing. And I guess it's better than slavery, so.
Yeah, well, except the whole concept. You see, people misunderstand that when the term wage slavery was coined,
that's bullshit.
people say, it's not real slavery. Well, it wasn't real slavery in the literal being owned sense, but it was in terms of essentially you worked, slept, and ate.
But in all fairness,
you couldn't go to another employer who would offer you anything better because there were no other employers who offered you anything better, and there wasn't enough free available money to set up any other type of business.
Funny enough, though, they are using wage slavery now as an excuse to claim there is still slavery in America and in Europe and yada, 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 blah, blah, blah.
No, it's not there. It's in the bloody Far East where, they're using slave labor to make iPhones and Nike shoes.
No, in the Far East and in the Middle East, you have actual slavery. As in the same way it had always been.
Yeah, but my point is that while it's conceptually different to have actual slavery and environments where you effectively have no choice over your employment, in reality, the existence is as dismal either way. And the difference is a slave owner at least cares about the health of their slave.
Yeah.
A wage slave is just an anonymous, replaceable person. Belongs as a supply of labor.
What's your take on it, Paolo? Because you've been quiet for quite a while again.
Yeah.
He's going, I can't get a word in.
The thing you kind of see it in the way that the market's set up, especially when a lot of people are dependent on a gig economy. So I don't think that there's so much as as more more of a search for employment than an offer of employees, but since there's no search for specialized employees, even the most capable of workers are stuck in the gig economy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that they figured out how to make a planned obsolescence work in the job market. If they don't need you to be good at, they don't need you to be good at your job. They just need you to do a job.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny because it seems that what we are seeing now in most of the Western countries actually is that we indeed went to the idea that people don't have to be good anymore, they just have to be there. Which is
No. You see, again, morality hasn't changed, hasn't gone away. It's just changed. Now morality is: are you woke?
yeah. And if you're not, like this poor Dean, would have thought calling it Dean poor was realistic, but there you go. This poor Dean is being ostracized.
Well, they're poor in a different sense. Unfortunate Dean.
Yes.
Now, there are several reasons why this happened in this particular college, because it's like a smorgasbord of wokeness. See, here it is. Scripps College is a private liberal arts women's college in California with an extensive interdisciplinary core curriculum.
Yeah.
So everything about it is just sounds like it's made for failure.
Mm-hmm. Which it is.
And it's part of a larger network of California liberal arts colleges, which are all in places where their students are affluent. So of course they're going to do the things that their complaints are directed in this specific way. Their students, their 1,100 students who are complaining that the dean does not pay particular attention to them, are all the daughters of rich daddies.
Well, yeah. You know, I mean, as I say, it's all, you know. You experience something that anyone might experience. You claim to be the only one experiencing it, and you claim to know exactly why it's being done to you, and that is a form of oppression. In this case, racism. I mean, there should be so many alarms going off from that narrative.
Yeah.
And it's not like these kids are lazy, because they're not. They just don't know how to turn their work ethics into anything productive, because the 25-page letter by students for an accountable scripts with 8 appendices was first drafted several months ago.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They do all these ideologues are very diligent, just in totally unproductive areas economically.
Exactly.
And they have to be. I mean, they have to do something to make themselves heard, to bring themselves into prominence.
Well, no, it's not just that, but it's also when we put that into something, it's something we care about, something we deem to be important, right? Well, they have been brought up to be Karens, to use the latest meme.
Yeah.
And what does a Karen do when a Karen is disappointed or upset or whatever?
She complains to the manager.
And what's this letter?
You have to talk towards the microphone, mate, otherwise we can't hear you.
Sorry. Much more important, I have beer.
Don't talk into the beer, talk into the microphone.
No, beer! I'm talking to the beer. Like it's a microphone.
But yeah, no, and the funny thing is, and this is the whole idea of identity politics. Obviously, nothing a white person can do isn't inherently racist.
Or a black person who can be labelled as white.
And once you accepted the fact that nothing a white person do cannot be racism, then all of a sudden black people that do not push the narrative, that do not toe the line, are now also racist. They have internalized white supremacy.
Yeah, well, yeah. Or no, they have internal
Internalized whiteness.
racism and explicit are white supremacists.
Now, don't get me wrong, I've never been a fan of Candace Owen. I mean, I don't think she's doing wrong. But
I must admit, I quite like it. I've got to say.
But I mean, the way she's acting now, a lot of black people are angry with her because she's basically a white supremacist. She's actually been called a white supremacist by white women.
And men, and white men. And what's more, they will scream racist epithets at her.
Yeah, for not agreeing with them.
But then
It's what happened to
feminists will scream sexist epithets at women who don't women right. So
but that's
it seems that these people have a pattern of behaviour that is rather hypocritical.
No, but the feminist one, that's actually been proven. I think it was Twitter a few years back that did a bit of research in misogyny in Twitter, and they found that more than half of all misogyny on Twitter was from women towards women.
Isn't misogyny. I get so annoyed at the misuse of the term misogyny. Misogyny means hatred of women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very, very few people on the planet proportionately hate women.
Yeah.
They might be sexist towards women.
Yeah, it's an abuse term.
Hate them.
No, I agree with you. It's an abuse term.
That is correct. In fact, we love their sandwiches very, very much.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, sorry.
The best cooks in the world are still men.
Good joke, but
not nice of me to
no,
say.
I mean, what I mean is the survey you're referring to was on the general preponderance of use of particular terms.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that was an ill-conceived study.
Oh, of course
I'm talking about the explicit insults that a feminist would call misogynist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Directed to someone for political reasons.
Mm-hmm.
That's reasons of belief, not just because you're angry with somebody. See, I mean, it annoys me a lot with the whole racism in football argument we got in Britain at the moment. People are racist towards black footballers because they know it's what will upset them.
Yeah, because when you want to insult someone, you say the things that
when
will
you want to
insult
upset
them.
somebody, you oh crikey.
Yeah, I'm assuming that was Paulo.
And it has now been made so blatantly clear that if you use a racist term to a black footballer, he's going to get upset. That if you want to upset that black footballer, that's what you do. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's wise, but it's like, what did they expect?
Yeah.
And the point is, in a population of tens of millions,
you're bound to find a few.
One person does this, and all of a sudden it's a rampant problem.
No, it's only a rampant problem when it happens to a person of color.
No, I'm saying, but one person does it.
Yeah.
There was one footballer, and it was all on the news. These horrendous, a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And they arrest him.
Yeah.
They arrest him, a 12-year-old boy. Then it happened to another black player who happens to play for my club. And it's one person. As I say, you've got a country with tens of millions of people, and one person's mean, and that's supposed to indicate it's rampant.
Yeah. Don't try to make sense of it because there is no sense. I know what you mean.
No. The point is, and I was trying to argue this a long time before this latest bout of madness erupted about the racism thing. People are racist not because they're racist, but because they want to, especially in something like football, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got the opposition player, you want to put off their player.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you've got a white man, you don't know what you'd call him gay or something, I don't know. But with a black man, it's easy. It's given to you on a platter how to upset him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What a surprise! That's what people do. Who'd have thought it?
And I mean, if you look at the things that are being named racist, you'd be amazed.
No,
I mean,
I would not. I would not. Nothing. There's a joke, right? Joke, sort of like a humorous meme. Type in anything and is sexist. Just type in anything and then is sexist.
Yeah.
And you'll get hit.
or is racist.
Or it's racist, yeah.
It's all because it's about the identity politics. There is no rhyme or reason to it. It's all about how can you
They've
make people feel
covered their
guilty.
bases, right? They've covered their bases. What you have is you have sexism and benevolent sexism.
Yeah, which
Racism and benevolent racism. Which means if you do something bad, it's the straight vanilla flavour racism. But if you do something good, it's because you are benevolently racist.
Yeah.
So you can't do anything at all.
No, you can't do anything because if you move into black neighborhoods, it's gentrification. But if you move out of neighborhoods where people tend to go to when they're black, then you're fleeing, which is also racism because gentrification obviously is racism. Talking, basically saying that you think someone is good at something is racist, but saying that they're bad at it is also racist.
Yeah.
It's catch-22. You can't do it right.
Notice their colour, you're a racist.
Not noticing their colour.
Notice their colour, you're a racist.
Yep.
Literally anything and everything.
Sleep well,
then,
Michael.
As white people, we are told we are born racist. It's in our genes, apparently.
Well,
The same people
it is.
who don't believe biological sex is in our genes do believe racism is.
Well, it is kind of true. But that's because people don't understand what racism is.
But only for white people.
No.
White people's genes are the only ones which contain racism. That's the key.
Yeah, well, in all fairness, if we look at racism in the world, hardly all of it isn't from white people.
Well, no. But then, you know, it's funny. Do you remember a few weeks ago, the Democrats in America tried to do this gesture of solidarity for black people, and they wore these particular tribal colours, and they turned out to be from a Ghanaian tribe who were renowned imprisoners of other peoples.
Mm-hmm.
So they were a slave tribe, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, so they do know that the slavery was performed by other black people.
Of course.
Because until that point, black Americans seem to have, or, you know, the woke way, that seem to have shown zero awareness that it was actually other black people who did the enslaving.
But this is true for the transatlantic slave trade too. Not a single
That's
slave.
what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, Modler.
I mean, slavery was a thing well before there was a transatlantic slave trade.
Of course. as I say, but you would be hard pressed to get any expression of awareness of that fact until this came out, where they said, "Oh no, that African dress is associated with people who purchase slaves." And I'm thinking, so you do actually know that.
I forgot the name of that. Because they I think there was a Central African tribe, culture, country. I can't remember the name. There was also an African country that actually wanted to. They contemplated going to war with England because England stopped the Atlantic slave trade.
Yeah,
and it cost them so much money. I can't remember the name of this. I want to say Burundi, but I'm not sure if it's correct.
Yeah. I can't remember what that one is. I get confused. Yeah, I'm sure they did, and then they probably thought better of it.
Eventually, yeah, because the English at the time, not the British, the English were rather.
No, it was a British by then.
Was it already? Okay, but they were.
It was actually the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland for all but the first 3 years of the 19th century.
Okay. But yeah, no, the empire was rather nice to them because they did deliver in a lot of other things on trade. So in the end, everyone was happy apparently.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to say that. That is the worst sin of them all, to say anything positive about empire. You can't say empire was good for anybody. It was a exploitative, ruinous system.
Yeah, which wasn't true. Let's be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Because no one's done a British version of what did the Romans do for us. You know, Parliament, law and order. You know.
Yeah, but law and order is always a bad example because countries had law and order before and after the British Empire. There are countries with law and order that never were part of the British Empire. Let's be honest.
No, that's not what I mean. But the question, I mean, it's the same with the what did the Romans do for us? There were countries who had those things without the Romans.
Well, roads.
The point is the specific country getting them.
No, fair enough.
We have to think that cities in Africa, like Lagos in Nigeria, Kinshasa in the DR Congo, those were when they were built as part of colonial empires. They were some of the most modern cities in their respective empires, much more modern, in fact, than the respective capitals.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, London still is a mess because unlike say American cities which are planned out, or even Paris, which Louis XIV had cleared out and then reconstructed to a plan, London's just the old dirt tracks turned into road.
So, yeah, because the idea that colonialism, European colonialism in Africa was exploitation without compensation is ridiculous.
Well, the empire cost Britain money. Britain lost money running the empire. It was a net drain.
Right. We didn't, but we did something better than you did. We paid off local chieftains to work for us.
Yeah.
You guys.
But no, I mean, the other thing is, I mean, people point to India, but when the British, and it wasn't the state, it was actually a private company, conquered most of India, they didn't conquer India from the Indians. We conquered it from the Mughal Empire, who had been previously an invading Islamic.
Yeah, and they were rather bloodthirsty.
Overclass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the only reason why Hindus are forced by their religion to carry
the
a knife.
Hindi-speaking peoples were very much grateful for. And when people bring up Gandhi was not an Indian from India. Gandhi was an Indian from South Africa.
Yeah, but there's also something else to remember. We were in India for a couple of 100 years. The first 100 of those, we were very different people. The British were very different people to the second 100 years. We went massively downhill towards the middle of the 19th century. And the best example of this is what is actually a very barbaric habit. I forget what it was called, where the widow would be put onto the funeral pyre of the deceased husband.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it was mainly a Hindu practice. It wasn't only Hindus who did that. Apparently the Sikhs did it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it was over 100 years in India before we outlawed the practice. And the reason we didn't outlaw the practices is because when we first went into India, we had an explicit policy of not interfering in local customs.
Which I guess a lot of people after the fact are happy that you did.
Yeah, but here's the point: we finally interrupted it at the point where our psychology started to become supremacist.
Yeah.
Because when we first went into countries, we didn't particularly view ourselves as superior. We were there for trade.
Mm-hmm.
It was only after we'd been there a while that the Victorians started to get religion and suddenly consider themselves superior. But for the first 100 years, we didn't. That's what I'm saying. You know, the British Empire wasn't one thing for the whole time. It changed in nature. And so people remember the late empire, against which Gandhi fought, which had a lot of these worst traits of British snobbery and superiority ingrained. Whereas 100 years before, we had been nowhere near as oppressive, so to speak, culturally. We were like, no, you've got an ancient civilization here. You've got a very deeply established tradition in Sanskrit and, you know, studying. That they did it in a very different way in India, but, you know, they had these really ancient practices. When the British went into India, we were like, oh, wow, this is impressive, you know.
Yeah. But a lot of empirical, how do you call it, empirical science that we have nowadays also came about because of French and English ways of looking at things. Things like, for example, archaeology.
Well, I mean, this is one of the, and it's oddly little known. When the British, as I say, when the British went to India, we actually refused to let them learn English in schools.
Which is also weird, let's be honest.
No, and the reason is because we didn't want to supplant the local culture, the local languages. And that was actually policy. And the Indians sent a delegation in the early 19th century to London to request permission to teach English. And they wanted to do that because they wanted access to the scientific knowledge that had given Britain its advantage. And it took, you know, as I say, then we had this cultural shift and the British started to say, no, they've got to learn English. Okay, a decade later. And everyone remembers that, say, oh, the English imposed their language on the Indians. Yeah, a decade after they come and asked to have it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the same as the Dutch. And I mean, the Dutch weren't as big empire builders as the English, though we too were rather big. But if we look at, especially in the early periods, that was in Dutch we call it the mix between the vicar and the tradesman. We went there not as vicar but as tradesman. I mean, there were some things where we would say, okay, yeah, this is what we stand for, this is what we find important, But on average, we're not to tell the people there how to live their life. This is basically the same time in England in the beginning, the British Empire, even before the British Empire, they weren't. Oh, what's the word?
No, we were there for trade.
Yeah,
And beyond
yeah.
that, we didn't
We didn't go to proselytize.
to tell people how to live.
Yeah.
We were there to make money.
But the more we went on with being who we were, eventually, even with the Dutch, it changed. It became more and more like, okay, yeah, no, we are going to help these savages see the light.
Yeah. It's because I think when you go with a certain humility, because you don't know what you're going to find, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas once you're established, we know from our own lives how quickly people who are younger forget things that were important to people, not dead people, but people who might only be 5, 10, 20 years older than them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
we wanted to do both, but that's because we were Catholics. We trading and spreading the gospel had to come in a package. You could just buy one.
But
I've also
and we had a reason to want to do that, especially because the first time we got to India and we noticed the Muslims were already there, and we had a reputation.
Didn't one of the apostles go to India?
Yeah, Thomas. But still, as the Muslims took over Persia and Bactria and advanced into the Indian subcontinent, when we went around Africa for the first time, and then we found that there were outposts controlled by Muslim nations all the way through Eastern Africa, the Red Sea, and then into India. We wanted to make sure that we took up what we saw as competition, because we still had a reputation amongst Muslims, the peoples from El Andalus, as their enemies.
Oh yeah. It wasn't that much of a time frame, was it?
No. Portugal stopped advancing when we reached the Algarve in 1249. Mm-hmm. The Emirate of Cordoba in Spain, around the same time, in the 1220s, it held up for another 200 years with the same borders. But then after the merging of the Catalonian and Aragonese crowns, they finally conquered the Emirate of Cordoba in 1494. In the meantime, we had made advances into North Africa. We conquered Ceuta, and we established a few other cities in northern Morocco, although not much more than fortresses. So there was never any actual territorial conquest. But we were advancing against areas that they considered theirs, since going around Africa was necessary to get to the lands of spices without.
That's what it was all about. Route was the spice trade.
Yeah, and if we convinced the local rulers in India that we had a better religion than the Muslims, it would make it easier for them to become our allies. Of course,
and Muslims were very great at pissing people off. That was also a factor.
Yeah, but we kind of didn't help, because when we got, I think it was Calcutta, we had to threaten to bombard them from our boats.
Yeah, but Calcutta remained a Muslim area. That's part of Bangladesh now.
Yeah, well, we didn't have a fortress in Calcutta. I think actually Calcutta, we didn't lose Calcutta. We gave it away as dowry to a marriage with somebody from the British Crown.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Although we wanted to keep Ceylon, the Dutch took Ceylon away from us. Yeah.
But talk about the Catholic So, I mean, I read some really very positive things about the Catholic missionaries in the Americas in terms of how they refused to make the natives learn Spanish and protected the locals, and they learned the local language rather than making all the locals learn their language.
Well, not quite. They needed to learn Spanish in order to learn the Bible.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
What
I'm
we
talking
ended
about
up with.
the priests. I'm talking about the priests.
Yes. The priests understood the Amerindians' way of life as living practically in the Garden of Eden. It was a sort of innocence. So it was important that they understood the gospel, that they be Christianized before they were exploited.
Oh, no. I'm not making this about faith. I'm making this about language and colonial attitude.
But
the centralized colonial attitude, as coming from Spain and Rome, was teach them to speak our language, and the local priest, once they got there, was like, no, we're going to do what we think is best for the local people, and if they have to look, and if they have to have the Gospels in their language, then that's what we'll do, sort of thing.
Yeah, but it was impossible to translate because they didn't have any written language.
But the priests also were the people who have preserved the most history from those cultures because they didn't have written language.
In South America, yes. In Central America, no. Because the Central Americas had more developed cultures. Mm-hmm. The Aztecs and the Mayans, and at first they started tearing down their monuments, and they kind of erased some important parts of their history. But in the Amazonian jungles,
differentiating between, I'm talking about the monk missionaries, not the armies.
Right. So yeah, because the missionaries were the first to have extended contact with Amerindian tribes that were undeveloped. They lived mainly on the Amazon in the jungle. They didn't have any sort of advanced culture. So they found it necessary to preserve them because they understood that they were living as in the Garden of Eden.
Uh-huh. The point is, I'm just trying to say, I've heard these good things, and that the imposition of religion wasn't done in a destructive way.
Right. It was
because of the nature and the moral standards of the priests, not because of
we had one
of central, the central authorities way back in Europe.
We had one of our own priest in Brazil, a Portuguese priest in Brazil, Antonio Vieira, which incidentally was one of the greatest protectors of the Amerindians, and incidentally at a desecrated statue during these stupid Black Lives Matter protests.
Yeah. Well, you see, and this again brings me back to what I was saying about the early British, because the standard complaint from people back in Britain about the young men, because it was always young men and they would tended to be single, is that they would go out to India or somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then they would adopt the local customs, dress, marry a local woman, and then they were accused of going native. Mm-hmm. And this was a widespread complaint. Mm-hmm. But it was only a complaint from people back in Britain. You know what I mean? The people that are removed didn't understand the phenomenon and know anything about the place. Right. But the fact is that the people who went out there found enough to be impressed, and whether it's in these relatively simple cultures in the Amazon or some very old cultures in India, they found enough to say, wow, this is admirable. I actually want to become part of it, because this is what dominates here. Because if you want to assimilate, you become like what's already there.
Yeah, exactly. That is actually assimilation. You go there and you become what everybody is. The notion that you go there specifically to change them, especially in a time when you didn't have the technology to force cultural change, it would be ridiculous. It would.
But there was no will as well in the early days. And by
Yeah.
early days, I'm talking about over a century. There was no
Yes.
will to impose
Yeah.
our ways on them. It was, we understood enough that other cultures existed and could be long established, and you didn't get anywhere by disrupting them.
Yeah.
You just get a lot of unhappy people.
Sure. That's kind of how we lost our fortresses in Aden and Hormuz in the Arabian Peninsula.
Yeah.
Of course, they were actual Arabs in the Arabian Peninsula, so it was easy to set them off. But in India and in China, we tried to avoid being. We tried to avoid disrupting the local scenery.
Well, actually, it's funny you should say that about the Arabs, because it is a common trope about the the gypsies, the travelers, whatever you want to call them, that they are always independent. And perhaps it's something about nomadic people, or people who see themselves as nomadic, that their culture is inherently hostile to being domesticated.
Sure.
Yes, I've listened to lots of travelers in Ireland talking about this situation, and there was one famous boxer who was from traveling community in Ireland, and he was an interview on the TV, and he was saying, "Well, what would you do if someone said to you, here's a house you can actually settle down in and live in, so you don't have to have a caravan anymore?" And he said that he'd sell the house and upgrade his caravan.
Yeah.
So there is a hostility to the settled folk, for lack of a better term.
Well, it's about your perception of what freedom means.
Yeah.
Because if you have property, you aren't free in terms of movement or what you do with your life, because the more property you have, the more you're constrained to it. Whereas there's a freedom in having wealth and property if you don't mind about not moving about. You see what I'm saying? It's like a different perspective.
Well, see, one of the problems with that perspective is that they're not really that free, because the traveller community in Ireland, at least, is very highly dependent on social services of the rest.
The irony.
Sure. No, the problem there stems from the fact that they want to remain free, nomadic, in a territory where every piece of land is already owned by somebody else.
Yeah. It's a conflict of culture that's not going to end well, isn't it?
Yeah. And since pretty much every country now has every piece of land claimed by somebody, either privately or through the state, it's impossible for a nomad to live freely without owing something to anybody. And in the end, they're going to become dependent on the kindness of what to them are strangers.
Well, yeah, but that's also due to the fact that what ran their economy has gone, because up until the 1930s or so, the invention of plastic pretty much ended quite a lot of the work of the traveling community in Ireland, because a lot of them were the tinkers who would repair your pots and pans, fix up your okay. They do the jobs to fix things so that they can be reused, whereas whenever plastics turned up, that started the whole disposable culture and pretty much destroyed their income.
Yeah, I still hear the pipes from the guy who fixed knives and scissors. There's still a guy running around town here, but yeah, no, I don't even know why he bothers, because we can just go to the Chinese shop and get a pair of scissors for a euro. Yeah, that kind of disappeared. And it's actually that's a similar problems going on in India right now, because there are certain jobs that can only be performed by the lower classes, and those jobs are disappearing because of automation and a certain modernization of object replacement and plant obsolescence. And they don't know exactly what to do with those people because they're not used to having a social state.
Sorry, just checking. I was just checking the chat there because I'm not sure how many people are still here in chat. I think because it says there's 4 people participating, and I think it might be us 4.
Yeah, I think we're the only one left.
Said goodbye. Michael said goodbye. Nick's radio hasn't said anything in a while.
John's hiding.
I don't know who's there.
Just come back. Sorry, Mother Nature decided that enough beer is enough beer without having to empty the system a little.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is 5 watching now.
Yeah, I think Nick is still there. Yeah, there's just somebody there and watching, and we don't know who it is. The rest of the people on the chat are us.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah, but I have to go in a
Green
minute.
Badger. Hello, Green Badger.
Hey there, Green.
Hey.
Morning, Green Badger.
But you wanted to say you have to go, Ludicrous.
Yeah, it's been a long day, and I'm just back from diving, so...
And he's newly married, wink, wink. Sorry. What is this? Cheap shots.
I know.
Well...
But I thought I'd contribute anyway.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. You're always welcome, mate. Hell, if next time you want to bring your wife, you can.
Yes.
I'll bring mine, and then the 2 of them can talk Polish, so none of us know what's going on.
We've had that on the Hangouts.
Yeah, I know.
That was last week.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got to crash out, so I'll see you all on. Hope you have a good chat there.
Good night.
See you later, mate. Thanks for coming.
See you later.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is I find it is there's reality, and then there's whatever's going through the heads of all these idiots who are so ideologically intoxicated, shall we say, befuddled, that I mean, there's no chance of discourse. They don't want it, you know, and it's like, okay, so where do we go? You know?
Mm-hmm.
The people, what do you call it? I was listening to something today. He might have done it yesterday, and he calls it late stage anti-racism. Being racist is late stage anti-racism. Being sexist is a late stage anti-sexism.
Uh-huh.
Because the only people who seem to exhibit these traits they complain so much about are themselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, the amount of black people complaining on Twitter about being silenced by woke whites, it's increasing.
And it's so transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think they start going to these protests, Black Lives Matter, and then the woke whites tell them to shut up when they disagree with something, and then they find out about Zuby.
Well, you know that graphic the modelling had last week, and which I've seen several interesting stream/videos on since. It was produced by a white woman.
Yeah. The one we were talking about. How
the whiteness.
the whiteness.
How oppressed black people are, and it is so racist. I mean, Tim Pool did a great one. He said, "Oh, so this is apparently whiteness, is it? So my family, because obviously he's first generation American, right?
Yeah,
he's half Korean.
Mixed. Yeah, he's mixed.
So he's got Korean grandparents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, so the culture of my grandparents, all these things that are really important to their culture that are listed as whiteness. He said, I find it really offensive.
Mm-hmm.
And who's doing it? White people.
Karen,
because it's kind of a competition. You see, here's the problem, right? You can work hard and succeed, or you can change the rules.
Yeah, and they don't want to work hard.
So
I mean, they want
the rules.
They want to succeed, obviously, but they don't want to work hard.
Yeah, so they change the rules.
It's interesting, but yeah, there you go.
No, I mean, you just think about it. Everything listed as bad is what it takes to work hard and succeed. So how do you succeed? Oh, you demonize everything those who outcompete you use.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then
if everybody ahead of you in the race is disqualified, you're the winner.
Exactly. No, it's sadly, and it's the same. It's funny because Modway says this, and I always argue with him about Marx wanting to create a new
ruling class.
Ruling class. It is exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. It's wanting to be in charge.
Yeah.
And
it's not
the people who are really in charge are those who define the morality.
Yep.
Who has the power? Who is it you can't offend?
Mm-hmm. Those you are not allowed to criticize.
Not allowed to criticize. But here's the thing, right? So that I can never remember his bloody name. There was this white guy in Texas who a couple of years ago got killed in exactly the same way as George Floyd. And no one cared about it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Then you get George Floyd killed. Or any black man in America killed. And everybody's upset.
Well, it's kind of what Nick said. I mean, it's not about Black Lives Matter. It's that it should be all Black Lives Matter, just like all white lives, etc., etc.
Well, yeah, no, but that's not my point. That's not my point. My point is this: if problem is a lack of regard for black lives, why are black deaths the only one people to get upset about?
Yeah, well, because
that's the opposite.
White lives don't matter.
The fact that so many people get upset about black lives and not about non-black lives seems to indicate the exact opposite point to the one they're claiming.
Yeah, true that.
No, that is the key point. It's like, someone says, oh, I'm oppressed, here's the evidence. And you say, well, hang on. Your evidence is that people get upset when the group you claim no one cares about are done badly to.
Yeah.
But you don't care when the group you claim are privileged are done badly to. Which is such a blatant inversion of reality, it just boggles the mind.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But pointing it out obviously means you're a racist.
Well,
Or a
ironically,
Nazi.
it's something I've never been accused of.
Well, the whole term racist is nonsense.
Mhm.
But
Well, no, I mean, see, this is a thing, you see, because this is how we defend against them, right? You see, they're collectivists, where the individual doesn't matter. We're all our collective groups, right? That's how they think. But we're individualists. So if you insult my group, I don't care, because that's not me. So this is, see, you know, it's easy to get upset. Oh, they're calling all white people racist. But I don't care. It doesn't mean that I know they don't even know me. I know that they don't even want to find out anything about me. So I know that their attitudes towards me are invalid. And therefore, that's how we inoculate ourselves, by saying, you say whatever you like about white people. I don't know these white people.
Yeah, and this is coming primarily from North America, where they have a complete lack of understanding of what makes culture.
Yeah.
Because they generalize everything, whites and blacks, and which is why they buy into the Wakandan fantasy, and the Egyptians were blacks and we were kings, and they don't end up not noticing all the differences in every different culture in Europe.
Well, I mean, just look at Rwanda. Just look
Yeah.
at Rwanda. Two populations. One population, the minority.
sorry, that was me.
And even the way the Zulus took over that portion of South Africa,
Yeah.
it was the same. It was the same thing. The Zulus were actually Bantus, and they displaced the local populations when they conquered them.
Or the Aztecs in what is now Mexico.
Well,
The way that they would wage war on all the other tribes because they needed such a high supply of sacrificial victims.
yeah. Well, I like the South Africa version because obviously the white came to South Africa and that was racist. Well, the white in this case being the Dutch, because they started Cape de Goede Hoop. But what a lot of people seem to have forgotten is that at the time they got there was no one there. The only other people that sometimes were there.
Racist, right? Just sexist.
No, but it's true.
And depression.
No, I mean the Dutch made their first settled Cape de Goede Hoop. There was no one there.
That's what I said, because what you're doing is you're using facts, and facts are racist.
I know.
Facts are sexist.
I
Facts are
can-
white supremacy.
I can live with that. But so the only ones that were actually in the area were the Khoi, and the Khoi were nomadic. So sometimes they were there, but for several years because
they're not in a Japanese fish pond.
Yeah, no, not those Khoi.
Sorry.
And
Sorry.
but they could be out of the area for years. It's not like, I mean, in Europe, especially in Eastern Europe, nomadic meant that you would basically make the same route every year, and that route is because of weather.
Yeah.
But nomadic in South Africa was different because most of the land was okay for the whole year round. So sometimes they would go to that place and sometimes they would go to another place. Now the Khoi were nomadic in the rougher area, and sometimes they went to where the Dutch settled. But in the beginning period, they weren't there at all. And the Khoi started several wars with the Dutch. All of them they lost. And then the Bantu came, who started a war against the Khoi and asked for the Dutch help. And now the Bantu are the dominant species, so to speak. Yeah, I know.
Don't sound like a feminist, mate.
True.
You're not going to have this.
But they are.
Speciation. We haven't even got races, and now you're speciating.
True that. But they are the majority culture in the area now.
Yeah, culture, fine, culture.
But they're only the majority
People.
culture because the Dutch and later the English actually aided them. But people seem to forget that. Anyway,
Well, no, but
I need to
they
be.
never knew it in the first place.
Maybe. I need to be back.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'll be right
try
back.
to explain to the woke what's the difference between Kwai and Bantu.
Yeah.
And then try to explain that the Bantu, as the dominant culture of a very large territory in Africa, are actually separated into a bunch of other cultures.
But this is a problem. You take a continent the size of sub-Saharan Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you only have to look at those from the west, who are from whom sprinters are descended, and those from the east, from whom marathon runners are descended, and go, these are one people, are they? No, obviously not. Just as the Portuguese and the British and the Norwegians and the Slavs are all white.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you break them up even further. I mean, since the African peoples never had the chance to form ethno-states the way that we did in Europe, the best term of comparison is how the Celts related to other Celtic tribes, and warfare was a constant, even between Celts. So the idea that these are all one people can be applied to Africa is ridiculous from any ethnographic point of view.
As we discussed, the slavery of Africans was done by other Africans as an economic activity.
Yeah, and why wouldn't it be?
Well, of course.
Everybody did it.
Yeah,
everywhere.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. And it's like, but that you then ship people across the Atlantic, and therefore that's different. Yeah, your descendants are a lot better off than the ones who remained.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it was just a question of technology. That happened because the technology allowed it to happen. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I mean, always. But they hate the white man for being successful.
Mm-hmm.
If the Mongol Empire hadn't imploded after 2 generations, we might never have had a Europe as such.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's like,
mm-hmm.
But no, he was the white man.
Yeah. That's the thing.
But we're the racists. Because
Sure.
we recognise the achievements of other.
And I think therein lies the problem. We're the racists because we're the only one who allowed them to talk to us like that.
Mm-hmm.
In China, if anyone goes,
one of these these funny internet debates between a woke person and a shitposting historian.
No. We should have a debate between a modern woke historian and a factual based historian.
Yeah, well, that's never going to happen.
No, but that's what you want. You want 2 people on the same level, nominally.
Sure.
Right? Because the problem is if you get a mismatch in terms of knowledge and ability, that difference gets mistaken for superior argumentation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not about who can regurgitate the most facts. It's who can understand the facts they know better.
Yeah.
That's why everybody wins against Vaush.
Yeah. Except Sargon.
No, I think Sargon beat Vaush. The only thing that was funny with Vaush was when he had Dankula, and Dankula didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, but
Sargon lost against Christy Winters.
Well, yeah, he definitely lost.
That is embarrassing.
That was embarrassing. But Sargon has one problem when it comes to... Well, I'm not sure if he still has that problem. I haven't seen him debate a lot lately, so to speak. But he tends to follow the conversation, but doesn't stick to his points.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny because the last who was it? Damn it. Noel Plum. Noel Plum covered a debate between Sargon and some guy. Okay, don't know who. And Noel Plum's complaint about Sargon was that he had a very few points, and that's all he talked about, and he stuck to them and said nothing new. You know what I mean? Like a politician always giving the same answer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is ironically the opposite.
You should find a balance in those two things, obviously. But I mean, and this is not a criticism.
I mean, the problem with Sargon is he has areas of expertise, and he doesn't understand the limits of that knowledge. So, the minute you go outside what you actually really understand, you have to bring a different tone and attitude. But Sargon doesn't. It's like, well, I know my stuff and I'm correct, except sometimes you talk the biggest shit I've ever heard.
Well, I like Sargon, and on average, I find...
I'm not talking about liking him. I'm talking about how he discusses issues. There's issues where he knows his stuff and he's on point.
Yeah.
But if he strays off his areas of expertise, he talks in the same way, but out of his arse.
Well, I wouldn't say it like that.
And then you notice because it starts losing it with his opponent and starts telling the other guy to shut up.
Well, no, it's not even that. Okay, so once upon a time, and I've told you this many times, I used to be a trot, right? And the thing about Trotskyists is we hate communists.
Wow.
No, we hate communists. I have a document written by George Orwell in 1946 where he points out the hatred between Trotskyists and communists. From 1946. This is long and it is deep. They might both have derived from the same source, but it's as friendly as Shia and Sunni, Protestant and Catholic. That is, it's murderous, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sargon said, oh, Trotskyists, they're just communists. No, that shows your profound ignorance.
Well, it's double, because Trotsky and communists do have a shared heritage.
Yes, they have a shared heritage, as do Shia and Sunni, as do Catholics and Protestants.
Yeah,
that's not the point. The point is how they relate to each other.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, it's the same thing with communists and Nazis. I mean, they were allies at the start of the whole
You would
bloody
never
thing.
call them friends. Ideologically, the same thing.
Actually,
I mean, they were equivalent.
Right? As I said, they were actually on each other's side at the start of the whole thing.
Well, the Molotov-Ribbentrop pact is a peculiar thing.
It is true that, but it is a thing.
But it is a thing. They came to an accommodation and carved up Poland.
Yeah, it's because let's be honest. I mean, the Nazis and communism. That if you want to have an example of Catholicism and Protestantism, then it's Nazis and the communists.
Well, no,
it's
I mean,
not
they
the
all
communists
are.
and the Trotskyists.
They all are.
Well,
but my point is this: if you just dismiss and say, "Oh, Trotskyists, they're just communists," it shows a profound stupidity and lack of understanding.
It shows a lack of understanding. I agree with that. I wouldn't say profound stupidity, but it does show a lack of understanding.
No, it's just stupidity. Because you say that to a purpose. And what for all the issues you can have with Trotskyists, they're anti-authoritarian.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they hate communists so much. Mm-hmm. That is the dispute. Well, one is authoritarian and one is anti-authoritarian.
One could say that Trotsky is closest to what Marx actually wanted.
Yeah, and he wasn't a Bolshevik.
No, I'll grant you those things. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of Trotsky either. Don't get me wrong.
No.
But on this,
as I say, it's not about it. It's like this: you can have two bad things, and you can say they're both bad without conflating them with each other.
No, true that.
And
They're
that's
not-
my point.
I mean,
the point is,
yeah.
if you want to understand what's going on, you can't make these stupid mistakes,
Yeah.
but state it so unequivocally. It's not like, oh, in my mind they're the same thing or they're as bad as each other. It's they're the same thing. Well, no, they're not.
No,
And if
well,
you think they are,
I understand. I understand why Sargon did it though. Even though what is this?
I've just heard a motorbike.
Yeah, me too.
Not Modway.
No, it's Paolo, I guess. Paolo, can you close your window? Nah, never mind.
Actually, the window is closed. The window is closed.
Bloody hell!
Oh, hello, William Carlson.
And hi there, William. Well, we've started talking about the idiocy of identity politics, and now we're
we're still it's a broad
roughly
subject.
on we're roughly on topic because now we're talking about the good and the bads of communism and socialism, and there are very little goods in it.
We can't say the good.
Yeah,
but the different types of bad.
Yeah, there's very little good about it. I mean, there's one good thing about communism and socialism. It proves time and again why people shouldn't go into it.
Yeah,
that's the good thing.
But what is interesting to me, and I do find it profoundly interesting, is the appeal of these ideologies to the intellectual elites of the West.
Yeah, but that's because, and this is a very stupid thing I'm going to say, but bear with me for a second. So let me finish the point I'm trying to make. But there is this saying. There is this saying.
He asked me to not interrupt.
Shut up!
Believe it.
I'm going to mute you. Fuck that. That would be a first. No, but seriously, though, there's an old saying, and it's often said as a joke, but in a way it's true. Those who can do, those who can't teach.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the basis of socialism. It's people who know better, but can't really do it themselves, but want you to do it to prove them right. And as such, then obviously they are the ones you listen to, so it creates an elite of themselves. And as long as everyone does what we say, it'll work. Which is always, the good thing about it is that it already has its excuse built into it. Because it only works if everyone does what we say. If it doesn't work, it's because someone didn't do what we said.
Yeah, I'm not convinced by your explanation. It's far more complicated than that. But that doesn't explain anything about what I said. And what I said is the appeal of socialism to these intellectual, the wealthy middle class intellectual elites, because they are the bourgeoisie.
Yeah. Well, they want to be the bourgeoisie.
Who have now adopted the role of being the warriors against themselves, except they don't see themselves as being themselves.
Yeah, they don't see themselves as the bourgeoisie because they don't see themselves as the rich or the leaders or the ones in power. They see themselves as the proletariat, even though they aren't. And
the wealthy middle class and pushing parasites.
And the proletariat never agreed.
That's why I find it fascinating.
Yeah,
that they have successfully done. The whole point about Animal Farm was this, wasn't it? You start off with the mantras.
Yeah.
2 legs bad, 4 legs good, right?
Yeah.
And then you end up with 4 legs good, 2 legs better.
No. All animals are equal. Some animals are more equal.
No. But it also goes to, because the whole point about the 2 legs bad, 4 legs good is it changes over time. And it ends up with 4 legs good, 2 legs better. That's how it ends up. And the whole point of it is the actual inversion And that is what has happened with so-called Marxists. The whole point of the left was to take genuinely disenfranchised people who didn't have a say in society, people who didn't have a vote, didn't have a stake, didn't have any wealth, right? And help them to rise up to participate more.
Mm-hmm.
And the supposed, no, I've never agreed with this, the supposed oppressor class were the problem.
Yeah.
And it's done the Animal Farm thing of starting off with poor people good, rich people bad, right? And it's gone to poor people good, rich people better.
Yeah.
Metaphorically. You see what I'm saying? As a metaphor.
Yeah, no, I understand what you mean. And it is true. Because if we look at the poor people in socialist countries, they're never the leaders.
Mm.
And that's not really true.
Well,
There's one country where the leader...
Not just that, but during the Solidarnosc struggle, Polish state used this wonderful mindfuck of, we're a worker state, so you don't need unions.
Yeah. But then that's what Solidarnosc stood up against, to be honest.
Yeah, and Solidarnosc was a union of workers against the state. And that is exactly what the woke are.
Yeah.
The woke are declare themselves to be X, and X have to fight.
But funny enough, Solidarnosc in Poland happened as a counter movement to socialism, communism.
No, but this is my point. Because that kind of socialism, communism wasn't a worker state.
Yeah.
It claimed to be a worker state, and therefore it claimed you didn't need a union.
It wasn't real socialism. Communism.
No, that's not. No, you're missing the point. You're missing that it's a psychological slip technique they use. They declare it's like the anti-racists. We're anti-racist, and therefore, if you oppose us, you're a racist.
Yeah.
And then proceed to call people using racist epithets.
Mm-hmm.
But it can't be racist because they're the anti-racists, and that's the entirety of their logic.
Yeah, basically the anti-fascist.
Yeah, the fascist anti-fascists, and because they say they're anti-fascist, they must be.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter how fascist they act...
True that. It's annoying that people still fall for it, to be honest.
It's not about them falling for it. What I'm more interested in is the mindset of the people themselves. Because that's the problem. Most people will just go along with stuff and not pay that much attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you've got the morons on the BBC going, and like every match, the players take the knee for a minute before kick-off, and this is such an important message to send the world. It's like, fuck off.
Yeah. Why is it an important message? Hell, politics. This is
in Formula One. It's Lewis Hamilton who's complaining that there are no black people on Formula One. Yeah,
except himself.
Yeah, except himself. The thing is, it doesn't have anything to do with being black, because if you want to be in Formula One, your parents need to come up with $25 million throughout your life between the ages of 6 and 20. Yep. Otherwise, you'll never be in Formula One.
You have to become a go-kart champion as a young kid.
Yeah.
And that alone costs around 200,000 euros a year.
But you see,
where are you going to come up with 200,000 euros?
This is the irony.
Yeah.
The people who say they're against racism will point out that, people pick on people on appearance, right? Mm-hmm. The superficial. Mm-hmm. And yet these people who complain it, you base their entire argument on the superficial.
Yeah.
Because they're saying, there aren't black people. I mean, we have the same in football, right? So in football, there's a lack of black coaches. I mean, there have been black coaches. But if you haven't noticed, there's a lack of British coaches, full stop.
Yeah.
We are still a 4-1 majority white country.
For the time being, anyway.
No, but that's not the point. The point is we're still a 4-1 white country. So if you have 5 British managers, you would not expect there to be more than one who wasn't white.
Yeah. But you don't have 5 British managers.
Yeah. And this is my point. It's the same as, we've not had a black prime minister. Of course not. Because if you look at when the prime ministers were born, Britain was a much less non-white country.
I like it, for example, in the SNP in Scotland, talking about how racist that country is because there are hardly any black this, that, or the other. Forgetting the fact that less than 2% of Scotland isn't white. I think it was 2%.
And most of those are recent.
Yeah. I'm sorry, how dare you not hire black people that aren't there? That's
into
stupid.
senior positions despite them having no qualifications or work history.
Yeah. Hell, the fact that they have a few politicians that are of colour is
and that is usually due to affirmative or what they call it, positive, nothing positive, but
affirmative action or positive discrimination.
I mean, the BBC was doing this, and I was trying to work it out because it's a very complicated formula. The BBC is saying, we don't have employees who represent the country. No, perhaps that might be because of the massive immigration from non-white countries in the last few years. Because if you look at the BBC, like all organisations, a number of those people will have been working there for 10 years, a smaller number for 20 years, a smaller number for 30 years. And if 30 years ago, there were only 5% non-white people in the country, then only 5% of that cohort should be non-white.
Yeah.
The only way, if you've got a mass immigration of non-white people, to keep the employee proportion corresponding to, given that to the population as a whole, is to fire white people who've done nothing wrong, who worked for you for years, en masse, just to replace them solely with people of colour.
Well, not just people of colour. All of a sudden, you have to have sexual identities and.
No, they don't care about things because they are awful on disability. Sorry, excuse me a second again.
I never understood the need for proportional representation anyway, especially in public jobs. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in your characteristics. I'm interested in you doing your job. And your job isn't based on what your characteristics are. But saying that obviously makes me a racist. Well, it's weird.
In the automotive press, we have less than 5% women. I don't see anybody complaining, but there are areas where it's only women journalists. So,
yep. I mean, let's be honest. Education, healthcare, mostly women jobs. As a man, it's sometimes really a bitch to get into it, even though they want people to do this job, and they want men to do these jobs, but only as long as you allow yourself to be indoctrinated in a certain way, because if you don't, then, maybe this is not the job for you.
They want equality, and equality is anything more than 50%, including 100%.
But they don't want equality when it comes to sewage or...
they do. They want equality for men, so men can be up to 100%.
Yeah.
No, I mean, as I say, they have these strange definitions. It's like education. The one issue that pisses me off is we need more women instead. Why? Well, they're a minority. Yeah. And a majority in everything else. Okay. So why do you need more women in STEM?
We need a woman president. Why? We need a woman president.
I mean,
Why is that better?
There have
want
been,
about vagina.
but there have been several countries in the world, even Western countries, that had women leaders.
Mm-hmm. We've had two.
Yeah.
And the wrong one has been so hated by feminists.
They wanted to take her vagina away.
Yeah, but
no, it's the whole argument is we need women leaders. Okay, the first women leader of the UK was Margaret Thatcher,
and she hated
not
feminism.
like that.
Yeah, not
no,
like that.
They literally have no answer. That's the point. They literally have no answer because there's nothing they can say that will square that circle.
Mm-hmm.
You want a woman to rise to the top. You have a woman who said she's not a feminist and she just rose to the top through her own merit.
And
which
hard
is
work.
Precisely what the feminists claim to want. So they have no argument.
Yeah, and I always love it when people talk about the glass ceiling and it's never been broken. And I'm like, okay, if we look at Margaret Thatcher, I mean, I'm sorry, but Prime Minister of Great Britain is probably the biggest job you can have in Great Britain. Now, are there jobs that pay better? Yeah, probably, but that's not the same thing. And she was Prime Minister for quite a long time. Now, whether I agree with her or not has nothing to do with it. The fact remains, she was the leader of Great Britain. And at the time, Great Britain was larger than it is now, so to speak. It had more influence in the world. Now, look at Germany. Angela Merkel has been the leader in that country for quite a while. I think she's making a mess of it. But one can't argue the fact that she's been the leader of that country.
No, exactly. But it's like this bizarre memory hole thing.
Yeah.
Do you remember recently they took down Gone with the Wind from Netflix? Or something?
Yes. Oh, bloody hell, yes.
And it was, I don't know, the 40s, and it had the first black woman, or first black person probably, to win an Oscar, right?
Yep.
And then you will hear from this
racist.
century people say, oh, the first black woman to win an Oscar. No, that happened 70 years ago.
Yep. But now they don't want you to remember that it already happened, so let's remove history.
Everything is first. Every single time. And no matter how often it happens, every time it happens, it's still the first.
I love the fact that what's Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel was the first female lead.
Superhero.
No, there are plenty of female leads. Yeah, no, but she's the first hero lead. No, many of those as well. No. Yeah, no, but she's the first superhero lead. Yeah, no. Again. Absolutely none of them. But you just don't like Captain Marvel because you're a misogynist. Okay.
No, we don't like Captain Marvel because she sucks as a character.
Well, but
I don't like Captain Marvel because I just don't like anything out of the media.
Actually, I loved Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel was a very interesting character.
But you know what's the funny
20
thing?
or 30
Do you know
years ago.
Who the Captain Marvel was 2 Captain Marvels ago?
Yeah.
It was a black woman.
Yep. Because equality.
And they erased the black woman.
Yeah, but
and when they tried to make this Captain Marvel popular in the comics, they started transitioning her. She looked like a man.
Yep.
The guys from Comicsgate used to make fun of her comics.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, they used to call her, instead of Carol Danvers, she called the guys from Comicsgate did reviews and called her Carl Manvers.
I mean, did you notice, going back to the 70s when you had Wonder Woman, they always had, even though it was mainstream TV, she always had the hint of a sexy outfit.
Oh, yeah.
Well, her creator was a notorious sexual deviant.
There is that.
He worked in Hollywood, of course.
No, he was a psychologist.
That's what I said. Of course.
William
The
Moulton
psychologist
Marston.
can work in Hollywood.
Yeah, but no, he's from the East. He never worked in Hollywood. Well, in 1940, William Moulton Marston created Wonder Woman. He wanted her to become a feminist symbol, but basically created most of the stories so that he had an excuse to tie her up because he was into bondage with his wife and his mistress at the same time.
Don't ask.
But isn't that tame for a progressive these days?
Oh yeah, no. Nowadays,
it was
there's nothing
1940.
wrong with that. But that's another thing. I mean, there's so much.
That's being progressive, isn't it? Being ahead of your time.
But if we look at a lot of female characters in movies, that have stood the test of time. I mean, my favorite is always. Now I've forgotten her name because I'm terrible with names. But Ripley Scott in the how do you call them? Aliens franchise.
Alien, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know her name.
Yeah, no, I don't know her name. The
character played.
I think the
What's she
character.
called, Ripley?
I don't. The character's name was Ripley. Wasn't it? And I mean, I've seen the movies. I don't really care about the movies because I don't really like the Alien franchise because there's certain things happening that don't make sense in a storytelling way. So even back in the day.
Of course,
but she
naturally. It's called science fiction for a reason.
No, well, even science fiction should adhere to certain rules. But the thing...
it should, but doesn't mean it does.
No, and that's the problem. But the character of Ripley actually made sense.
Huh?
I mean, it's not her character arc that is unbelievable. I mean, having
the aliens, the monsters.
Yeah, I mean, having an alien that as soon as you damage them, the blood that pours out is corrosive. I'm sorry, sounds nice, not doable because then all you need to do to kill them is scratch them. As soon as they start bleeding,
the whole point is you can't. It's in the plot. You see, it's needed for the plot that you can't shoot it. Because then you will risk corroding your way into outer space and you will all die.
Yeah, well,
that is actually a very lazy plot device.
Yeah, it is, because all I have to do now is shoot it, drop the airlock down, and let it be sucked into the air. Or out of the vehicle.
Didn't having one of them sucked out into space... Was it the second one where she did that? She fought it as with that mechanical lifting thing?
I'm not quite sure if it's the second one, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the second one.
Could be. I have to admit, I don't know, but it could be.
Because I saw the first one, I saw the second one, but I don't like that sort of thing. It's all a bit naff to me.
Yeah, some of it was just okay. But the character arc made sense. I mean, she wasn't this uber powerful Mary Sue. She became more powerful, and the story later explains why she has.
Well, you see, that's the difference between old Hollywood and new Hollywood. Old Hollywood understood what equality actually is, which is that people are people and they have to develop.
Yeah.
You know, heroes tend to be reluctant and they're not very good at first and they have to learn how to do it and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas nowadays it's, well, she's a woman. Of course she can do everything.
Yep.
Why? Because that's what feminism says.
Yeah. And it's painful to see how they always hurt themselves like that.
He was blown out of an airlock in both Aliens and Aliens.
One and two.
Badger, I didn't know that.
And later we learned that one of the reasons why Ripley could deal with the aliens better than other people was because she had a little bit of alien DNA in her. Fair enough.
Well, that is bollocks.
Well, it is bollocks, but the way it was brought, I mean, it wasn't that interesting.
Here's the thing. Speciation is a thing, right?
Yeah, I know. I know. It was bollocks. It is bollocks.
It is still, to my mind, a mystery how humans and Neanderthals were still, or Homo sapiens and Neanderthals were sufficiently close to be able to crossbreed such that Neanderthal DNA has been passed on to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, you get to the point where you cannot produce viable offspring.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the whole concept of it being an alien species, bollocks, sorry.
Right.
There's nothing in biology
hybridization-
But the fact
that
that
would suggest that an alien species, I mean, Richard Dawkins says, you know, he would put money on all genetic systems being binary or digital, sorry, should I say.
yeah.
But you would not have DNA.
Well, she was
You would not have those 4 particular peptides.
Yeah. No, she was
combinations working that particular way
yeah.
in any other species in the universe.
Right.
But yeah, she was indeed Green Badger. She was manipulated, genetically manipulated. But even
It
though
doesn't matter. The DNA of an alien wouldn't be DNA of an alien.
but still,
That's my point.
even though
hybridize.
even though they did this, it wasn't this catch-all plot twist. It was more something like, okay, and this happened too.
Yeah.
It wasn't. If you look at for example modern day movies where power of women and all that nonsense, it's not even a plot twist. It's the plot.
Yeah.
And in this story, the Ripley, it's not. It was a little bit of a plot twist that, you know, it filled in some of the story holes, but it wasn't important. It was something to go along with the story. It didn't explain anything really. It didn't counter anything really. It was just something added to the story.
Oh, bizarre. Then why would you add it? You have to ask.
Well, because it added to the story.
No, but it doesn't add to the story.
Well,
it has no significance.
It gives a little bit of depth where it may be not necessary, but good storytelling isn't just about the things that are necessary.
No, I know, but as I say, it doesn't. Well, whatever. I just find it superfluous, but that's me, perhaps.
I have to admit that I'm a little bit amazed right now. I'm looking at the image of a book called Why Socialism Works, which is why socialism works, why it works. And
as I said to you, those people are literally deluded. They are literally not interacting with reality.
Let me
There is no
give me a second to show you what I mean. Go on, stupid computer. Please do what I want you to. There you go. And yes, people on the interwebs, I will show it to you too in a good old second. And that's
good old second.
Yeah.
We have a mean old second if it's quicker.
Speed is not my thing. I am not Jeremy Clarkson. Yeah? Okay. Said it, meant it. Oh,
yeah, well, not being Jeremy Clarkson is a good thing in the main.
I agree. Anyway, this is the image.
Mm-hmm.
It's from Amazon. I'm sorry, the people...
Harrison Levesey?
Levesey. I have no idea.
I can't really read his name because it overlaps the yellow of the hammer and sickle.
Well, that too. And the people in the stream can't really see it because I should have moved it a little bit.
Livesley or something.
Like that.
Or Leavesley.
Yes, this should fit better. There you go, good people of the interwebs.
Doesn't sound a very proletarian name, is my point.
No, you know what my point is? Here we have a book explaining why socialism works, and you can get it for the mere price of $9.99. Wasn't socialism about sharing?
Not really. There's a lot of misunderstanding about what socialism is.
But selling a book with a message is a clear sign of capitalism, isn't it?
No.
Oh, what is it then?
There is nothing. There is no money grubber as blatant as a left winger.
Well, true that. But I thought.
No, I mean seriously. I mean, this is what I'm saying about the appeal of socialism to all these affluent intellectuals, like, middle class intellectuals, because the premise they claim to promote would mean demoting themselves financially, socially, etc. And you only have to encounter anything they say or do to understand that that's the last thing on their mind.
Yeah, they don't care about you. They don't care about anything. They want to get paid.
And they certainly will not bear sacrifice themselves. That question in the GQ interview between Jordan Peterson and that journalist is, to me, just such a seminal moment. She's all like, "Oh, the privilege, and he says to her, "Well, aren't you privileged?" I guess I am. So why don't you give up your job? And all she could say was, "Because I don't want to."
Yeah.
And then, so fine, she just provided an answer to every one of her opponents.
Yep.
Why don't you blah, blah, blah? Because I don't want to.
Yeah. But yeah. No, but it's always funny that the one thing that you can always find socialists, well, modern socialists to do, is make sure that people have to pay for their message.
No, exactly. That's my point. They're money grubbers.
Which...
Have you read the Amazon reviews for this book?
Oh, I didn't look at the reviews, to be honest. Did you?
Gadsad was the top review, was it?
The author entices the reader with a simple and concise, yet eloquent and complete explanation of socialism. I'm sure this will go down as one of the greatest texts ever written on the subject. I found myself furiously consuming the words on each page, totally engrossed in the text. It seemed I couldn't turn the pages fast enough. I highly recommend this book to anyone studying the subject of socialism, as it is sure to give you the best possible understanding of the subject. I would especially suggest the seminal work to any and all supporters of Bernie Sanders, as this will give you unbelievable insight on exactly what he has been espousing for years. If you read the text and study it carefully, I promise you, you will have a near doctoral command and understanding of socialism.
Written by Connor Burns.
But that doesn't actually explain how it works.
Nope.
No.
It just says you will understand it.
No, that's the one-star review.
This book is a con, I saw as a headline.
Yeah. The book title should change to Why Capitalism Works, as it has zero value, but priced at £7.99. People like me who trust the website and reviews to buy this product are the people feeding capitalism. Extremely disappointed with this product. This is not a book. If I had the option, I would put 0 stars.
Mm-hmm.
This book is a puerile joke. On each of the 200 or so pages, there are 2 words. It doesn't. This book is theft. There is no content. I have given it 5 stars in the hope that more prospective buyers will be made aware and thus save their $7.99. Because Amazon is only pushing the 5-star reviews up.
Of course.
I didn't see that one.
Naturally. It has 2 to 3 words in it.
That's amazing.
You keep scrolling past it, Modway.
Yeah.
The bit that says it has 2 to 3 words in it.
Yeah. The people on the stream
The
can't
book
see
title
this now.
should change to Why Capitalism Works, as it has. Oh, that's the one that Paolo read out. Sorry, I apologise.
But it's amazing, and people will still buy it. Now, apparently this is then indeed a hoax, a way to get people to part, a fool and their money, they say. Right? A fool and their money.
Top international reviews. That's a curious expression, don't you think?
Sorry?
So they have United States reviews and international reviews, as
Okay.
if there needs to be a distinction. Am I missing something?
I haven't paid any attention to it.
No, I mean just the whole concept of
Yeah, you think review is
dividing
review.
reviews by country. This is a good book in America, but a bad book everywhere else. Huh?
No, there's a 5-star review here from Spain. In this book, Harrison Lively
we
manages to
know Spain's-
synthesize.
We know Spain's got, Spain have too
Yeah.
many socialists.
There's one here in German.
I was just. Oh, you've opened it on your own.
Yeah, there's another one from Germany.
I haven't really looked into.
There are 2 from Spain and 2 from Germany.
Should I should share it with the people again then, because we keep talking about it now. Maybe I should show them what we're talking about. Show them what we're working with. Oh, come on. Come on.
Oh, that's a genuine review. Person saying it's such a good book. I just bought several more copies. Can't wait to share them. Yeah, sure. Really?
The most honest assessment of socialism I ever read. You will find yourself nodding with the inescapable truth found on every page. This should be required reading in every classroom. Well, if indeed the whole book is 3 words, repeated over and over again. Yeah? Makes sense.
Is that what the book is?
Well, that's what one of them said, wasn't it? There's only 3 words in it.
3 words in it.
I don't know. I haven't read the book, obviously.
Isn't there a thing where you can read like the first chapter? You have to get that and my music.
I don't know if this has it. Oh, well, customer images. So this is the first one. Yay! And of course, people are saying that it's okay. I don't fall for the white supremacy bullshit. And it's not the circle game. Okay, Che Guevara.
That's a Kyrgyzstani flag, yeah.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
So yeah,
That's why it's 2 to 3 words.
It's 2 to 3 words.
Because they're hedging their bets on whether doesn't counts as 1 or 2 words.
I'm going to say it counts as 2 words. Does not. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's 3 words. It does not.
Yeah,
is 3 words.
3 words. 2 to 3, but yeah, 3. So I have to admit,
you've got to admit that is amusing.
it is amusing, and it kind of does destroy my point saying that bloody socialists always selling their crap. But in this case, it's a good troll. It's a very good troll, apparently. If you get people to pay for it, fucking hell.
Well, that's the joke, isn't it?
Mm.
Wait, there's a 9gag article on it? 9gag.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Reason to vote for Democrats, is that the same? Is it blank pages?
I'm wondering about it now because it's.
Called it. Blank pages.
Yeah. Yeah, it's here on 9gag as well. with a review. Absolute piss take. I am furious as each page just says it doesn't. Send it crap back.
Yeah, I mean, it was advocated
You
to
got
buy
to
it
admit,
together.
as a joke Christmas present.
Yeah, no, it's a good joke. Now I have to.
Yeah, I mean, either of them as a joke Christmas present would be quite amusing.
Okay, this one doesn't have images. So yeah, not this one.
Oh, it's a Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, How to Destroy America in 3 Easy Steps by Ben
Oh,
Shapiro.
we're on a different. Sorry, you switched to a different page.
Well, I was looking to because they come recommended with frequently bought together. So the reasons to vote Democrat, and this is why how socialism works came together with the third, and I think this was the third one that was suggested. So
that is a real book.
This is a real book. Yeah, this is a real book. I haven't read it. I'm not advocating for or against it.
I found a video of a guy turning the pages.
Of the one of the Democrat one.
No, of the socialism.
All right. Should I? Nah. Should I show it to people? I don't really care that much.
You see, Green Badge is impressed. He wants to buy a copy now.
Yeah. Well, it's a good gift.
See, if you ever saw who likes to have a few books on your coffee table.
Yeah. Well, it would make for an interesting discussion piece. Yeah, that's the word we should use, discussion piece. It would make for an interesting discussion piece.
Well, it's a troll, isn't it? Because your friends come round and they go, "Oh my God, I didn't think you were like that." You said, "Yeah, you should read it. Go on, just read it."
Well, I didn't know you were into that.
Yeah, but wait until you get home to open it.
Yeah.
As I say, it'd be a great joke present.
An in-depth guide on why socialism works. It's amazing. But fair enough. Anywho, I'm slightly starting to lose my shop. One could argue I never had it to begin with. I know. I'll say it for you.
I haven't, so why should you?
But considering we've been busy for a little more than 2 hours, I would like.
No. It's been a good stream. So I think it's time to.
Yeah, it's been a good stream. It's been a fun stream. I think only Green Badger is with us still. I don't know if William Carlson is still here. I hope he is, but I don't think so.
Well, he's on your time, isn't he? He's in Sweden.
Yeah. It is late.
Whereas Green Badger's sort of like early morning or something.
I would like to thank everyone for coming. Thank you, Paolo. Thank you, John. Thank you, Ludacris, even though Ludacris isn't here.
It's been fun. We, as always,
we
almost discussed some of the topic at one point.
We were almost on topic. That's not true. We were quite long on topic. I mean, it took a little time before we got started because...
Technical difficulties.
Yes. Yeah, technical difficulties. But this is...
And we promoted colonialism again.
No.
When you have a tradition, you should honour it.
True that. It makes you wonder. I mean, traditions are there to change. I'll be the last to deny it. Traditions are there to change. But change is something that should happen naturally, not forced upon people.
Oh, you must be in America. I don't know why. I thought you were in Australia, Green Badger. My apologies.
Anyway, thank you all for joining us. And for the ones that watch it later, which is absolutely no one, I know, but still, thank you for doing so.
I'm sure there are a few.
Nah, it's 2.5. In all fairness, it's 2.5 hours. Come on, I wouldn't. It's too long. Anyway, thank you all.
They paid attention.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we make good background music, so to speak.
Look on the bright side.
The sun?
We're still streaming, despite YouTube's announcement. Was it the 1st of April or 1st of March, whenever it was going to get rid of unproductive sorts?
Yeah, well.
And I did predict that we were going to be harassed because we're bigger viewers than we are users, consumers of their resources.
Yeah, that's true. But YouTube has completely throttled me. I mean, if I get more than 20 views on a video, that's a good video. So, maybe my videos are really crap. That's possible too. Anyway, thank you all for joining us, and I hope to see you all next time. Any last words from you guys?
Nah.
I'm not dead yet. You soon will be.
Okay. Well,
Nobody is. We're immortal.
bye-bye.